So in this video, I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks to make your PC exponentially faster. So the first thing you need to do is to make sure that your RAM is running to its full potential. By that, what I mean? Well, when you buy a RAM, you look at two things. One is how big it is or what's the capacity of it. And second is its speed. Now, some RAM can have 4200 megahertz or for 3600 megahertz and so on and so forth. But if you are using a DDR4 RAM, then by default, it's going to run at 2133 or something like that. So what you need to do is go to your BIOS. And when you enter in your BIOS, you need to enable XMP or DOCP, depending on your CPU. But if this all sounds too confusing, then I would suggest you go to your Google, type in your motherboard's name, and then type how to enable XMP or DOCP profile, or how to make my RAM to run at full speed, or how to overclock your RAM. Essentially, it's kind of overclocking, but it's not something that's unsafe or it's gonna void your warranty. Your motherboard has a lot of smart features, and this is one of them. By enabling XMP or DOCP, you are telling your motherboard to run your RAM to its rated speed or up to that speed. Now, it's not guaranteed that if your RAM is 4200 or 3600 megahertz, it's going to run at that speed, but it's going to try to match that as close as possible. And at the same time, one thing you need to also remember, if your RAM is for above 4200, I guess above 4200 or 4600, then it won't exceed that. In case of DDR4, you need to manually do it, and after doing this, you will be able to see instant difference. Now next, increase your GPU's power limit. Overclocking your GPU can be pretty fun, but it comes with its stability issues. One overclock might work with one game, but in another game you might see crashes, or sometime if you are doing some other task which is not related to game and your GPU isn't stressing out that much, your system might crash. You have to reboot. So one thing you need to do, and that is increase your GPU's power limit. You can do it by installing MSI Afterburner. There would be a slider power limit. It's going to be at 100% and you can max it out. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to max it out to 200, 300. It won't go that far. It will go as much as your GPU's headroom available. And by increasing GPU's power limit, you can get a lot of headroom so your GPU can boost to its full potential, and you can get more performance in game, which is noticeable. Trust me, you can get at least 5 to 10% improvement, which can be the difference between unplayable and playable gaming experience. Now, while we're talking about overclocking and boosting up powers, let's talk about CPU overclock. And if you are using a AMD CPU, then you are in luck. You can install Ryzen Master software and then just press auto overclock, and it will take care of all that. You don't need to worry. And if you don't use a AMD CPU and use an Intel CPU, well, then I would suggest you watch a thorough overclocking video on YouTube. There would be a bunch of overclocking video that would be available on YouTube according to your CPU, and do it carefully. And the next point is really important, and that is cleaning your PC. And trust me when I say it, I am one of those people who really don't like to disassemble their PC, then clean it, then reassemble. Call me lazy or anything, but time to time I have to do it because it will give you noticeable performance improvement. Because you have to understand, most of your component in your PC can run hot. They run hot. So if they are not getting fresh air, they are not getting efficiently cooled. And if they are not efficiently cooled, well, then they would start to throttle, because most of your components will aim for longevity rather than giving you max performance today and tomorrow it's just gone berserk. It doesn't work like that. So disassemble your PC, clean your fans, don't use brush because it can emit static electricity to your motherboard, to your RAM, and can break your component. So try to use blowers, but not too fast blowers, and just be gentle with your PC and clean it thoroughly. Take your time, clean it, reassemble it properly. If you are doing it for the first time, watch a guide. And if you want me to make a video how to disassemble, clean and reassemble your PC, let me know in the comment section. I will happily do it, because I also need to clean my PC. So, killing two birds with one stone. but definitely you will see some noticeable performance improvement, and also it will increase your PC's longevity. Now, while we're talking about cleaning your fans, next thing that I'm going to tell you, and that is make sure that your fans are running at max speed. Yeah, if you can bear the noise, it's gonna make sure that your CPU, GPU are getting enough fresh air, they are not getting throttled. Now if you're using one of those RGB modern day fans, you're gonna have a fancy software where you can control your fan speed, and if you don't, well, then you again have to go to your BIOS. Now the next thing you're gonna do is go to your Windows Task Manager by pressing Control, Shift and Escape. Go to your startup page. If you're using Windows 11, there's going to be a little icon, and if you're using Windows 10, there's going to be a startup right there, like a written label. Go there and you're going to see a bunch of applications that are listed there. So what are these applications do? Well, they start up when you start up your system, and some things you really don't need. You don't need to Spotify boot up while you're booting to your system. You don't need Discord. You don't need OneDrive to boot up. So go through the list and disable all the application you think that you don't need to boot up while you are booting up your system. Now lastly, I'm going to give you some miscellaneous tips. If you play a lot of games in your system, or even one game in your system, try to start only that game at that time. And by that what I mean, try to close all the application that is running on your background and just focus on that game. By that you will get a little bit more performance. Secondly, don't aim for the max high ultra settings at 4K. If you have a 1080p screen, try to run your games at 1080p. You don't need 1440 running a game in 1440p while you're using a 1080p screen. You don't need the ultra settings. Some settings you can tone down. Even you can use a combination of medium and high settings, which can make your game look good at the same time, and you're gonna get good performance at the same time. And also AMD's FSR and NVIDIA's DLSS, if you have these features, use this feature. Trust me, they have came a long way, and now there's not that much artifact that it was before. And honestly, there are free performance with little to no quality loss. Update your drivers regularly. Whenever there is a new driver, try to install that driver as fast as possible. Yes, sometimes some driver can include some problems with some bugs, but mostly they include bug fixes, they include much more stability, optimization. And lastly, I will definitely encourage you to tell me in the comment section, after doing these things, did your PC's performance increased or not? If it did, hit me a like, and if it didn't, well, hey, you can dislike, it's free. And don't forget to subscribe. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.